All right, it's gonna be a video on replacing the front struts on a 2001 Honda Civic LX. This is my sister-in-law's car. So there's already a really good video online from 1A Auto that talks about how to replace these in 02 and up cars. There's a few key differences that I came across when I did the driver's side. So I've already done the driver's side last night. Today I'm gonna do the passenger side. And so I'll highlight that, but for the most part, I'll link the video from 1A below. It gives a lot of really good tips and tricks, and I'll just kind of show what I did here on the passenger side. And just real quick, this is where I jacked the car up from on each side. So that was the passengers. Driver's side was right here behind the hook. And I put the jack stands on the pinch weld right there, which is the stop factory jacking location. And then just make sure you've got some chocks behind the wheels. The car's got the parking brake on and it's in park, so it won't go anywhere. And it's up on the driver's side as well. I took off the lug nuts and everything, and the wheel's still kind of stuck on there, won't come off. So what I did is just grabbed a rubber mallet, just kind of tap it on the rim. It should break it loose. There it goes. Now you can take it off. All right, now I got the wheel off. First thing we're going to do is we're going to, again, this is what we're replacing here, is the strut. So you can see it's attached by this bolt on the outer tie rod. And then there's two bolts here, one here, and then there's three up here. 1, 2, 3. So basically 6 bolts, and that strut comes out. But first I'm going to take this off. So I'm going to need some pliers to get this cotter pin off. And then this is a 17 millimeter nut that I'll probably use an impact to get off. So in the other video from 1A, it says to just basically beat this with a hammer. And you'll see in their video, keep beating that, eventually this just kind of loosens up and pops out. I tried that on the driver's side, didn't really work out for me. So I ended up using, this is basically like like a ball joint separator or something like that. I got it at Harbor Freight a few years ago for like 20 or 30 bucks. I've never used it, so I was pretty happy to get to finally use it. And it worked really well, so this is what I'm going to use. But you can try using a hammer, or you can go borrow these. I think you can rent them at AutoZone for free if you return them, so your choice. So there you go, that's popped out with the ball joint separator. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this with a little bit of lube and let that sit. I had a hard time getting the nut back on yesterday because I kept catching all these threads and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and hopefully knock some of that grunge off of there while it sits. All right, next we gotta take the caliper off just to help us get to this strut. So it's just gonna take one 12 millimeter bolt here and a 12 millimeter bolt down here. And then I'll be able to take this caliper off. Before I take the caliper off, I'm actually going to disconnect this brake line attachment here. I think it's also a 12 millimeter bolt. So I'll take that and loosen that first before I take off the caliper to make sure I don't stress this brake line. I had to use 2 hands to do that because I was trying to do it one-handed and pulling on this, and it was turning the whole strut since we're disconnected here. But I just had to break it loose and now it's coming off. There it goes. Anytime you take a caliper off, you always want to be aware of your brake line. These are just kind of rubber. As they get older, they can break. So you want to make sure you're supporting this somewhere so you're not stressing the line. I went ahead and moved my jack under here. I'm gonna use it later to support the control arm once I take the strut out. And so what I did yesterday is I just put the caliper on the jack. And that way, I can orient it to where there's no stress on this brake line. And it's a good spot for it to sit. All right, next I'm gonna take these two nuts off so I can pull these two bolts out. And so in order to do that, we're gonna need a 19mm socket. What you'll see me do is I'll use my impact to break it loose, and then I'll have to get a wrench on this side to keep it from spinning. But hey, if you have a big, heavy duty, 600 foot-pound impact, this is definitely the place to use it. If you don't, I guess try with a breaker bar. You should be able to get it loose. All right, so before we pull these bolts out, this is kind of an important step. Make sure you got something underneath the control arm here. If you pull these bolts out, basically this whole rotor assembly, the control arm and everything is gonna droop down. If you see the 1A auto video that I linked below, they don't have anything supporting here, so they just take these bolts out and this drops down. And it's probably okay, but I just worry about it stressing this CV joint in here. I don't want it to pop out of the transmission or anything, so I'm just gonna support it so that way when I take these out, I can let this down just a little bit and I won't stress this CV axle. Thanks to my friend Jake for teaching me that tip. The other big difference with the 1A video is that I don't know why they loosen this tie rod before they pop this out. I didn't think you had to do that. I'm not sure why they did that. But I did it without loosening this joint back here. I just popped it out. So worked fine on the driver's side. So I think it'll be fine here. So I got that supported. So before I take these bolts out, I'm actually going to loosen these three up here first. All right, so these three bolts hold the strut at the top. They take a 14mm socket. That says 14. I won't focus, but so again, I'm using my impact here. I'm actually going to leave. I'll leave one of these loose on because I want to be able to hold it up top while I take out the bolts in the bottom. So I'll take these two out, and actually the new strut came with these, so I can throw these away. And again, I'm just kind of leaving this one on loose so I can take it off later once I take these bolts out. I'm just going to spray these just to clean them off. I'm going to reuse those two bolts. And then I'm gonna lower this just a little bit just to get this out of the way, just like an inch or something. So it makes it easier to get all this out in a second. All right, so now that I'm about ready to get this out, I'm gonna knock these bolts out. It should come out pretty easily. I have to wiggle them a little bit. I'm keeping track of which one's bottom and top. I don't know if that's important or not, but I am. I don't think it's important. All right, so then I'll take that one off. So now you can see, yeah, that went loose. And again, that's where now it's sitting on the jack right here, and it's keeping this from really bending all the way out. So now that's loose down here. Oh, geez. Okay. Now I just gotta undo this up there while I'm picking it up because there's a lot of weight on it. So I gotta pick up on here, using my other hand to unscrew this, and then the whole thing will come out. All right, so I'm gonna pick up a little weight here and then finish unscrewing this by hand. And then this will drop out and out it goes. Okay. All right, so put the new one in, same thing, just get it in here and get the holes up in there. And then just put these nuts on, hold it up here. came with the new one. That'll hold it there while you do the bolts down here. So there it is, kind of hanging from the top. This should turn. Yeah, there it goes. You can turn it. Now we can start putting it all back together down here. So installation will just kind of be the reverse of what we did. So I'll push this back in. I've got my top and bottom bolt there. Put those back in and then start bolting everything up. All right, so I've got these two snugged up, just kind of with hand tools. I'll come back in a second and put the torque wrench on it. Up here, go ahead and snug these up a little bit. One thing I really liked from the 1A video is the guy, he went ahead and like jacked up this whole suspension to put it kind of in its stress state. So basically just compress this spring and shock, just, you know, to where it's barely come off the jack stand, and then torqued it up. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I think that's a good idea. So I'll just come back here. You know, this jack is already underneath there. I'll just kind of put a little bit of stress on that. Those are already where they need to be. So you can see, jacking those up, those popped up a little bit, so that's good. And so again, I'm just gonna pop that up just high enough to where it starts wanting to pick the car up off the frame, so about right there. So that's pretty stressed. And now I'll go back, tighten these by hand, and I'll get the torque wrench out and torque everything up to the torque value. And I'm just using the torque values that the guy from the 1A video used, so I'm trusting that he knows what he's doing. All right, and then these up here call for 33 foot-pounds. Again, 14. Oh, nope. So the new nuts, they came with the new struts. They're not 14 millimeter anymore. I think they're 15 millimeter. 15 millimeter, 33 foot-pounds. I've actually got mine set at 40. I'm actually gonna snug them all up first with the wrench. Kind of like you do a wheel, snug them up first, and then I'll go back and do my 33 or 40 foot-pounds. So there's 40. 40. 40. All right. And with that, I'll go ahead and loosen my jack. Okay. And now the strut is supporting the rotor assembly again. Okay, next I'll put my caliper back on. It should just slide back on like that. And then get my two 12 millimeter bolts. Get those lined up and started by hand. Go. Hopefully my head wasn't in the way. Might have been. But yeah, just get those started. Okay, so I got those in by hand. Snug those up. I think there's a torque value that the guy says in the 1A video. I'll put it on the screen here in case you want to torque these. Not a bad idea. It's brakes. And then I'll just reattach this right right here with the same bolt that I took off earlier. And now the last thing is just to get the tie rod back in. Drop that in. And now got my nut. I'll reuse that. Hopefully that goes in okay. What happened to me yesterday when I was trying to tighten this up, okay, this worked good, is that once I got up here, when I would tighten the nut, it was spinning the end of this tie rod, or this ball joint. And so I ended up having to hit it with the impact wrench real quick, just to get it on quickly. And I finally got it on, but this one went on good. So I'm gonna check what the torque value is for that real quick. All right, so again, the 1A video says 32 foot-pounds here. I'll go ahead and tighten that down. I wonder if I'm having the same issue again here. Nope. Maybe I am. There it goes. 32 foot-pounds. I think it might have been spinning, so I had to hit it with a wrench and it stopped it from spinning. So then just put the cotter pin in. You should get a new cotter pin. I don't have any, so I'm just gonna reuse the old one. Hopefully we'll be okay. And with that, we're done. So everything's in. We got these top bolts torqued. Got our 2 big bolts torqued. Got our caliper back on. This torqued up with the cotter pin. Brake line on. So yeah, just put the wheel back on. Put it down on the ground. And you might, I guess it would be safe. I'll say, you know, this probably will require a alignment, since we kind of took off the tie rod. If this, you know, bar isn't exactly the same as your old one, it might throw your alignment off. So I think it would be smart just to go ahead and get an alignment after doing this. May also be smart if your tie rod ends are bad, go ahead and replace those at this time. But yeah, I'll recommend to my sister-in-law she gets an alignment. Hopefully she does. But with that, that's all there is. So just put your wheel back on, lower the car back down, and that's how you replace the struts on an 01 Honda Civic LX. Thanks for watching.